Join the conversation and like us on Facebook. Phone 1300 00 1012. Tasmania Talks with Brian Carlton.
It's 8 to 10. There'll be some news at 10. I'll go back to the phone shortly. 1300 00 1012 is the number. If there's an issue gone through on the news that you'd like to discuss that we haven't touched on yet, you can always do that. 1300 00 1012 is the number. The Federal Parliament is about to be presented with some proposed amendments to the Narcotic Drugs Act of 1967 that's going to allow for cultivation of medicinal marijuana through what they're describing as a national licensing and permit scheme. Now, what this will basically do is set up a process by which medicinal cannabis can be grown and then permits issued for it to be turned into a drug. That would be happening by another mob, pharmaceutical company, something like that. It's a move forward, no doubt about that. The good thing here is that we're not going to get into this stupid argy-bargy where one state does one thing and another state's doing another thing and a third state's doing something else. What this legislation will do is effectively streamline the process for the cultivation and therefore the ultimate distribution to those who need it. In Tasmania, one of the most vocal advocates for medicinal cannabis, medicinal marijuana, is Lynn Cleaver from Mount Direction. She's the mum of Jeremy, who's now 24 years old, and he suffers from some pretty horrific, not pretty horrific, absolutely horrific epileptic seizures. And the medicinal cannabis that she's currently sourcing illegally is helping him a lot. I've got Lynn on the phone now. Hi, Lynn. How are you going?
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm okay. How's Jeremy?
He's doing pretty well at the moment, yeah.
Okay.
Doing really well.
And you're still sourcing illegally?
We're growing illegally.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't want to say that on your behalf. Okay.
Well, somebody, you either grow it yourself or somebody grows it for you. That's how it works in Australia at the moment. So I'm happy to put my hand up and say, yep, well, we're one of those people.
Okay. I have, and we've discussed this privately and on air, that there is a tacit sort of agreement between the government and the police not to prosecute anybody doing this, which is just a sensible way to go about it in the interim.
Yep.
Now, what's your view first up on the on this proposed change that would streamline the growth and ultimate distribution of medicinal cannabis at a federal level?
Well, it's a good step forward. I mean, it's going to allow the growing and manufacturing of cannabis medicines in our country, which is fantastic, that we don't have to rely on imported or synthetic preparations, that we can do that ourselves. And the rescheduling from 9 to 8 will mean that it can be prescribed by a doctor. But it's still not addressing the fact that patients, don't have access to relief.
No, indeed. There will be there's a trial on of a drug called Epidiolex, which is is already being manufactured. Does that drug potentially, or that study, offer any hope for Jeremy? He's probably a bit old for it, is he? Would that be the reason?
Yeah.
Okay.
He wouldn't be able to be in that trial. The issue with the Epidiolex trial is that it's CBD-only medicine, and many patients with epilepsy need more than just single compound cannabis therapy. Like cannabis isn't a one-size-fits-all. And what may work for one will not work for another. Most of the success in Australia at the moment with cannabis medicines, the kids are using THCA medicines.
Right, okay.
And that will not be trialled at all for our kids.
That's interesting. There's some. There's also a trial going on at the moment too, or a proposed trial for what they're calling synthetic cannabis, which is the active cannabinoids that we're talking about, or cannabinols we're talking about, that are synthesized in the lab rather than extracted from plant. Do you see any value in that, or is it a little bit kind of a roundabout way of going about it? To be quite frank with you, the only value I see in that is a pharmaceutical company is going to make a lot of money. Ms. Sheffer, who's the lead of that trial, has several patients on cannabis therapy, and she's totally ignored them. And they are not using synthetic medicines, and they're having great results with homegrown cannabis preparations. So she's being a little bit ignorant of the fact that her very own patients are doing extremely well on non-synthetic cannabis. Very interesting. So you're, in a roundabout kind of way there, you're suggesting that some of the researchers might be perhaps pushing particular compounds that are more likely to be produced by a big pharmaceutical company than by a backyard operator.
Well, the sceptic in me says that. Yep.
Okay. I'm reading between the lines, Lynn, or listening between the lines, perhaps. Okay, now the good thing here, I guess, is that Susan Lee, who's a very decent woman and a very good minister too, for what it's worth. There's a whole bunch of things in the health portfolio you might have issues with, but she cares about this deeply. I know for a fact that she's pushing real hard. The other thing she's managed to do is get, and it's probably not that difficult, but get the support of Labor and the Greens for this. This will almost certainly be rubber stamped through the Parliament. So it's again another step on the way to getting some reasonable outcome for people like your son, Jeremy, Lynn.
That's right. Well, one of the issues, though, with what the Health Minister has released this morning is that she was actually referring that, or inferring that the narcotic component, which is ridiculous because cannabis isn't a narcotic, may not be present in the preparations that they're talking about nationally. So, and the issue with that, Brian, is that THC facilitates the healing, and it's the THC that allows people to control their suffering. So if they're planning on keeping THC out of their medicines, it's bound to fail.
I appreciate your time, Lynn. We'll stay across this. Thank you. And best of luck to you and Jeremy. Will you pass on my best for him?
Will do. Thank you, Brian.
Good on you. Thanks, Lynn. Okay. All right. We'll keep an eye on that one. There's again, it's a very complicated issue. It's complicated at a medical level. It's complicated at a political level. And as you heard Lynn say, and she's right, cannabis is not technically a narcotic, and yet it's classified as a narcotic under this Narcotic Drug Act, 1967. Okay, all right. There's some unstitching of old laws we've got to do here that is going to take a little bit of time, and then rebuilding the new laws. In the meantime, there's a bunch of people around like Lynn Cleaver who are forced to behave in a way that is technically outside the law right now. I don't believe they should be put in that kind of position.